to help facilitate trade. Not that gold and silver can't serve as money, not that we couldn't use them on an everyday basis physically, but if we had something on top which met the modern age, it's sort of the best of both worlds. You have the natural limiter of economic law and natural money, but you have this technology that man's built to facilitate it as long as man doesn't corrupt that technology. But whenever man gets involved, you have to worry about corruption. So the deviation away from gold and silver as money has to be very carefully done. The agreements have to be put in place. It has to be something we all agree on.
Welcome to Gold Silver Pros.
Hey everybody, this is Rob Kientz of GoldSilverPros.com. Glad you joined us. I'm recording this on Thursday, May 25th at about 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2023. Hope you guys are doing well. And I felt like it was the time to do a research on something very common, but something that is a really big debate right now that not everybody agrees with. And that is the concept of what is money? What truly is money? And what forms could money take? And in what forms may we want to adopt it in our life? Obviously, this is coming about as of the now public revelations that the dollar is on its way out. It's been on PBS, CNN, and Fox News. Commentators have been talking about it for quite some time. Of course, we first talked about it 13 years ago with the release of our book, Drop Shadow, The Truth About the Economy. Then all of my subsequent writings on Seeking Alpha and across the internet to now what we do here for Gold Silver Pros on our social media channels. But I thought it'd be a good time to revisit that because we're now at a point at which there's a lot of different definitions of money. But I wanted to go back to what is the classical definition because I think it's the strongest. And then I wanted to talk about what is not money, but what are other tools maybe that could be helpful so that we can define what is money going forward. Because I feel as though our nation is going through a bit of an identity crisis, not only politically and culturally, but financially. And we need to be able to talk about these things to solve these problems and bring sound money back. Because when we don't have sound money in society, you tend not to have sound societies. It permeates everything. So I thought it'd be a good conversation to have, and it's a good research piece for those of you who like to follow that. So I have a presentation here called What is Money? Defining Value for a New Generation. And this is going to be my presentation on how I define money, a little bit about the history of money and what money looks like now. And I think this will explain a lot of the coverage we've had on our channel and my views on that in particular. And it may serve as a good educational piece for those of you who had never really asked the question, what is money and what does it need to be and what is it actually and why does that matter? Well, I thought I would start off by asking, let's ask the computers because there are these great troves of history and knowledge. Let's ask them what is money. So when I looked at Google search, it told me that money is a current medium of exchange in the form of coins and banknotes. Coins and banknotes collectively. I counted the money before putting it in my wallet. I think what they're describing as currency, but nonetheless, that's what Google said. And I'll define that here for you in a moment. I looked at AI and I asked that AI because I didn't have to register an account. And I asked it, it's one of these AI search engines. And I asked it, what is money? And it said this big, long explanation. It's a medium of exchange that is widely accepted in transactions for goods and services. It can take various forms, including physical currency, bank deposits, digital currency, and other financial instruments. I disagree with that wholly, but let's continue to read. Money serves as a unit account. I agree with that. A store of value. I agree with that. And a standard of deferred payment. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that's a concept of currency and not money. The concept of money has evolved over time from bartering to the use of precious metals, such as gold and silver, as a means of exchange. True, but gold and silver were much more than that. And this article clearly, or this response by the AI clearly doesn't get it. So you can tell that machines don't know what money is right now. Why? Because we haven't told them, because humans are the one developing the machines. It says the concept of money has evolved. Oh, I'm sorry. Today, most countries have their own currencies that are backed by respective governments. They're not backed by governments. Governments can't back anything. People can back them with money that they create through transactions, but backing a currency with money, well, actually, you're backing a currency with currency. So isn't that a circular argument and doesn't actually mean nothing? And isn't that why all currencies eventually fail? See, even though the AI is supposed to be smart and telling us what money is, it lacks a basic understanding of what money is and has been over time, and the problems with currencies that try to masquerade as money and fail. It says ChatGPT continue. I'm sorry. I ask AI says it allows individuals and businesses to exchange goods and services without the need for direct bartering or trade. Money also enables individuals to save for future consumption. Got no problem with that. It's interesting, the second paragraph. However, the use of money also has its drawbacks. The creation of money can lead to inflation. Duh. But it's not money that leads to inflation. It's currency. So let's use the right terms here. If not managed properly by central banks. So central banks don't manage money. They manage currency. They manage the dollar. Additionally, the unequal distribution of wealth can lead to economic inequality and social unrest. Now it's starting to get into the main problems with currencies, not money, but currencies. In conclusion, money is a medium of exchange that facilitates transactions for goods and services. It has evolved over time. Well, it's identified one of the attributes of money and not all of them. And that's why the system is confused between what is currency and what is money, because it's been given the wrong information. So these AI systems don't know anything of what we tell them, and it's garbage in, garbage out. How do I know? I worked in tech for 25 years. I understand how this stuff works. I've coded before and dealt with technology. Interestingly, the top 3 authoritative publications given by the AI bot for that was using were the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, hence its gravitation towards currency and not money, The Balance, and Investopedia. I like Investopedia. The rest of them I don't care about. So you have to question, it's using popular sources, but how much vetting is it doing and really understanding this over time? It's not. The AIs right now that are publicly available, they're much more complicated ones, in academia and industrial use. But the ones that we're going to connect to, they regurgitate very light forms of information, and it's not really helpful and valuable, which is why I don't really use it as a source. All right. What does Aristotle say? What is the historical philosophy and definition of money been? And this matters because this is over time. Well, it says here, the commodity theory of money, a classic theory which goes back all the way to Aristotle in his work Politics, holds that money is a kind of commodity that fulfills 3 functions. It serves as a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. I would agree that commodity money does that, and anything that would be put forth as money needs to do all 3 things, because if you don't have a medium of exchange, you can't use it. If it's not a unit of account, how do we know what it's worth? Can't use it. If it's not a store of value and it's just fiat money, nobody's going to take it, and it's going to crash over time. So I agree, all 3 of those things matter. And yes, commodity money does have them, but any money that we have should also have those, because those attributes in and of themselves are important, but they're not the only attributes that are important. I think there are other ones. So I've added my own attributes to Aristotle's definition of money. I've added that it cannot be inflated or diluted or manipulated by an official government body. They're immutable, meaning they cannot be destroyed, short of you dropping a nuclear bomb or something extenuating like that. But in normal circumstances, you can't destroy it. You could throw it at the sun, launch it on a rocket ship, but we're not talking about that. It's fungible, meaning it's divisible where needed. It follows natural economic law, where the market determines the value. It must be naturally occurring and not man-made, and not controlled by any government body or any small group of men. It's portable, can be moved either easily and when needed. Okay, what is not money in my definition? Anything that doesn't follow the aforementioned guidelines is not money. It's either a currency or it's worthless or it's something else. Currency or non-currency units of any type, for example, anything that is not natural or market determined, doesn't follow natural economic law, anything that requires artificiality or is man-made, legislative rules to exist and function. Why? Because men are easily corrupted, but real money is not. And so is technology easily corrupted, because it takes in man's input and regurgitates it back out to us. So is AI good or bad? It's a tool. How do we know? It depends on what you put into it. So AI itself is not have the philosophical capability to define money for us. It's just regurgitating what we've told, which is flawed, as I've mentioned. Currencies are not fit for money. They're a unit of account developed by man for the purpose of settling a set of transactions for trade. The unit of account itself has no intrinsic value on its own. Rather, its value is derived solely in its utility because of the government that will enforce its use. How? Well, usually the military and an edict laid out by the Congress or that type of body. Currencies are man-made and supported, can be easily diluted or damaged, and do not stand the test of time across nation states, civilizations, or trade eras. This is true. The dollar has not always been the dominant currency, and we'll see how that's very cyclical later in the presentation. For example, fiat money, most private cryptos, seashells, or anything of value is a barter item that is not fit for money because it lacks key attributes. And I'll get into explaining that. The private crypto people are going to jump all over me, but I've got explanations for that. For example, seashells are nearly unlimited in quantity and can be broken. They're not money. They don't hold value over time. They're not immutable. Crypto can be copied. Developers can control its behavior. That's a big issue with BTC specifically. Is easily manipulated, highly speculative, large price swings and crashes known as beta. And I'll show you on a chart where Bitcoin is very high beta, meaning it cannot be a stable monetary unit or even a currency at this point in time. Not say it couldn't in the future, but right now it cannot be. And it's artificially created and does not follow natural economic law. That has to do with all the cryptocurrencies. There's no natural economic law that they follow. Now, people will criticize it and say, yeah, they will. They're out in the market trading. Exactly. And the market's telling us they're not money and they're not currencies yet because they don't follow natural economic law. And I'm going to show that to you here in a moment. Common examples of currencies. You have fiat money, such as the dollar, pound, euros, yuan, whatever the case may be. You got the private cryptos. You have barterable common items that have no exclusivity or acceptance as money, but they could be a currency, a type of currency. For example, I have this piece of aluminum that's serving as a pencil holder, but if somebody needed to melt that down and use the aluminum for something, maybe to make a can, or, I could barter it, or maybe they like the pencil holder and I can barter this for a chicken, or I can barter this for, a handful of rice or something, whatever that value is. So that's an item. It's not money. It's not really a currency, but you can use it as a currency in barter and exchange if you need to. But using this as a currency where everybody has one of these in exchange for value, not everybody's going to want this. They want something that is not as specific as this to serve as a currency. Any other man-made tool that does not fit all the requirements of money that I've laid out. Here's some problems with currencies. They tend to gravitate towards their true intrinsic value, which is zero. It's the linen or the paper they're printed on and the ink, but there's not a lot of value in there. In and of themselves, they don't have value. They're just created off of a printing press. You turn off that printing press, you have no more. You run the printing press, you have more. How is that money? How does that store value over time? How does that fall in natural economic law? It doesn't. It follows man-made law. Therefore, it's not money. The dollar is backed by the full faith of the government, which means little in the long run. It's enforced by trade agreements and the military governing them, but that can change at any time. In fact, that's what's happening right now. We're going through a big political, geopolitical realignment. There is a nation-state life cycle, which I've talked about on the channel many, many times. Lots of research I've presented that generally lasts about 250 years. Dominant nation states last about 250 years before they fall and new one rises. It's been almost 250 years since our Declaration of Independence. We're nearly at the end of the dominant era of the U.S. The U.S. will still exist and be a very powerful force, especially with its Navy, its resources, and its people. However, it is falling as the policeman of the world, and the dollar is falling or deglobalizing and de-dollarizing. The dollar is falling as the dominant currency, which is natural. And note that about every 3 years, you see currency regimes change. So 80 years ago, we had the introduction of the dollar. Before, we were on the gold standard for about 80 years since the Civil War, in a mix with fiat currencies like the greenback. We inflated the greenback during the Civil War. It went to zero. And a lot of the state issue currencies went to zero. So we stayed on a gold-backed dollar for 80 years. So every 80 years, we have a change. We went from gold to gold-backed dollar to pure fiat dollar. And now that era is ending. And what's coming out next? Central bank digital currencies. Every 80 years, it's a conjugative cycle. It is the winter-summer cycle. And that's reflected in currencies, not in money, but in currencies. Governments tend to love currencies, and the people generally tend to hate them, especially when you get at the end of the cycle where they're not worth as much, which is where we happen to be right now in the United States with the dollar as the dominant world currency. They do not hold value over time. How many times have we printed that chart where the dollar's lost 98% of its value since 1913 when it was first issued? They do not follow natural economic law and therefore reflect distorted valuations in trade. Who knows whether the DXY dollar index has any true value over time, because all those currencies are manipulated. And what does that value actually mean? It's ethereal to me, and it doesn't mean squat when we're talking about real world value for people on an everyday basis. It's a mess. It's speculated on by big financial entities. Nobody can tell me that dollar valuation is correct right now anyway, or the valuation of any of the fiat paper currencies that the governments have. Currencies in general are not immutable and have a high failure rate. They're often the tool of tyrants or socialistic systems that collapse under their own weight when they print too much of the currency unit and there's not enough backing them, not enough gold backing them, or the labor of the people. Currency is still the labor of the people, and that's why they collapse. And that's why you have to use them in tyrannical or socialistic systems, because democratic systems, people generally don't want it. Basically, the Federal Reserve got put in despite the will of the people. And I would say, if you ask the U.S. people right now, given inflation, the problems in the economy, if they felt like the creation of the dollar in 1913 was a great idea, and given de-dollarization around the world and people threatening to drop the U.S. treasuries and crash our economy, I would say most people would say probably not. We're here. I was going to put up on screen a picture of a lot of currencies that have failed over time, with the Zimbabwean dollar and all these others, but that it's not showing up on screen. I did want to show crypto and the correlations of crypto assets. You can see here that Bitcoin and Ethereum have a 74% correlation rate. The problem with the cryptocurrencies, they're traded as a class. None of them are traded individually as money or currency units. There's too much of a correlation, and people bid on Bitcoin and Ethereum together And that's why Bitcoin and Ethereum tend to rise together and fall together. And a lot of these cryptocurrencies do. Now, it's not 100% correlated, but people are treating them as a speculative asset and they have a high beta. In addition, it's not showing up on screen, but Bitcoin has a high beta, meaning it rises and falls very frequently. It's very, very difficult to see that Bitcoin has had consistent value over time. It has risen in price, but it's been big price crashes. And that cannot serve as a currency, because if you need a medium of exchange and store of value and unit of account, all of those things get affected by high beta, meaning if Bitcoin's going up and down very violently, it's not a store of value. It's hard to use as a medium of exchange because the price is changing more than that of what you're trying to exchange it for, which means it's not a good money and not a good currency. Okay. And as a unit of account, the value is changing so much. Yes, it's accounting for value, but what is that value tomorrow or 2 hours from now? We don't know. So it's not a stable, even currency right now. Now, it could eventually be. And I've been supporting a little bit the original version of Bitcoin, not BTC, how it's implemented, but the original version of Bitcoin a little bit, because I want competing currencies. But right now, it's just not there. Here are other problems with private crypto. While the nodes can be centralized, the programming isn't. So software determines this behavior, and that is very much not decentralized. So those nodes, even though they're decentralized, are all acting in a specific way, which does not reflect all true market, free market principles. They're determined by the developers. And so that system itself is artificially created and does not represent all the needs and the will of the people using it. Therefore, it's not market determined. Therefore, it can't be money. Could it be currency? Potentially, with some drawbacks, but it cannot be money. The block size is a problem for scaling. The difference between like BSV and BTC, for example, is a big issue going on and big arguments around that. The market does not agree on which version of Bitcoin to use. Is it BTC or BSV? They're two visions for a similar thing, but which one's right? BTC has more money behind it. BSV, many people say, more accurately reflects the vision of Satoshi and what he wanted that to be. So neither one really fits the complete vision of what people need it for. And as long as you have those forks represent cultural schisms within the crypto space, which one are you going to put forth as the next currency? That's a problem. Non-Bitcoin competitors offer different attributes and features, but none of them fit the role of money in society. And none of them as a whole fits the role of what we need money to be. You could probably put a bunch of them together and get closer to a currency state. Getting to money would be very difficult for reasons previously talked about. And if you turn off the power, you turn off both the Bitcoin currency and the digital ledger accountability system, this would destroy the crypto market in very little time. If you turn off power, you can still use cash and you can still use gold and silver. Hard to use Bitcoin. Now you can have portable ledgers and things like that, or pieces of paper, but then that kind of defeats the purpose. You're back to commodity or paper fiat money anyway. So taking out the power renders Bitcoin basically the same as the US dollar, but you actually have to have printed out your QR code or whatever it is you want to print out to represent that to do a transaction. You've got to have somebody else do it, and then willing to trust, because the ledger's not on right now, that they, actually, so it becomes a big issue. Further, nobody agrees on which one to use. There's no consensus. You have era of competing private digital currencies is unsettled. The market hasn't determined it yet. There's not a clear market winner. So who's the winner? We don't know. Then you've got asset-backed digital currencies. Now, this is a new entry into the space, which kind of combines some of the features of digital ledger technology, the private cryptos, with the monetary aspects of commodity money, i.e. gold and silver. Let's talk about those. Some examples are, these are digital accounting systems and not money, but they're backed by real money. So let's talk about that. Load and Kinesis are some popular examples. There are a lot of others. I'm going to show you Kinesis here in a moment. And we'll talk about Load on the channel as well. I want to talk about them. And on the Reddit channel we put together, United for Sound Money. The underlying asset is money when represented by gold and silver. The digital ledger system itself is not, but it's backed by money. And as long as there's one for one, it can act as a medium of exchange where money is the store of value. Aha. So the ABDC itself is not money, but it's facilitating the use of money for the current needs of our economy and digitization, smart contracts, things like that. The value of the ABDC is in its utility as a ledger or unit of account and medium of exchange, but the underlying metal serves as a store of value, so it meets Aristotle's requirements. The ABDCs are set up to feature all the right aspects of money, including immutability, which is one of the things I wanted, divisibility. They cannot be inflated as long as they're one-to-one matched. And Kinesis and Load represent they are and have audits to prove on both. I've seen, whatever's publicly represented on their websites, and it looks like they are audited. They're portable because you have the digital token, which is very portable, which means you don't have to shuttle around the gold and silver. You just settle up net at the end of the day, the week, or the month. Okay. the way it used to be done when gold was money, by the way. And they follow natural economic law where a free market for them exists. So they're traded on exchanges. And so now you've got the natural market. But there are fewer of them, and they're represented by gold and silver as money. So you don't tend to get the bong, 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 the high beta like you do in the private cryptos, because you're not trading the asset-backed digital currencies as coins themselves. The underlying value is in the gold and silver, so they don't have that high beta. What you're really trading is how popular those are as the potential to be, a type of exchange and unit of account for real money. And so the valuations tend to trade closer to that of the underlying money itself, gold and silver. Aha! So they follow the underlying asset much more closely than the private cryptos, because private cryptos don't have an underlying asset. They are in themselves a type of fiat designed for currency, designed for speed and limited amount and stuff like that, but they're not money in of themselves. The ABDCs serve as a good conduit and means of exchange to serve the age-old problem of PMs being very valuable and not easy to transport. They're like private crypto. They allow for the use of technology like smart contracts and other instantaneous settlement technologies, and they still have the power problem with all digital ledgers. So the power goes out, harder to use them, much like the private cryptos. So asset-backed digital currencies in there by themselves are not money, but they, when put on top of real money, gold and silver, can be used as a way to facilitate the use of gold and silver in the modern economy, which is why I like them, and which is why I talk about Kinesis and LODE and even Aris quite a bit, because those are options which take gold and silver, which I see as money, and allow us to facilitate international trade in the digital era without the drawbacks of fiat money or the private cryptos. So what is money? It's gold and silver and nothing else. Everything else is a currency or a technology facilitating the features of a currency, but not a currency itself. ABDCs are a way to combine ledger tech with money, but they do have some drawbacks, which I've talked about. And the way forward is still to be determined. We don't know what money is going to be going forward, although we know the attributes of what makes a good money. We haven't voted on it as a society just yet. We're up in the air. There's a lot, the era of great change here. I believe gold will sit at the center of this debate for a long time. Basel III and the fact central banks are buying it, and the fact that a recent poll put out by the mainstream media asked, what do you trust more, gold, Bitcoin, dollars, whatever, as money? And gold and silver were the clear winner. So with their 5,000 and 6,000 year history, nothing has replaced in the public debate gold and silver as true money, according to the recent poll run by the mainstream media. I wish I'd copied that and put that up here. Silver, however, is being commoditized and is likely out as money for the short term because it's been used so much in industry that it'd be hard for it to serve as money. So I think gold is becoming money, where silver has attributes of money and as commodity and as an industrial asset. And I think the need for it as industrial asset is going to grab most of it over time, but you're going to have people that save for it or use it as money and save in silver as money. I'm one of those, by the way. So that's it. That's the end of that presentation. I thought it was a pretty good one. Like to know your thoughts in the comments for what is money. I do have one more feature here for you on the show, and it's going to be talking about Kinesis. Now, I'm a big advocate of Kinesis. I've had them on the show because I think as an asset-backed digital currency, they're the farthest along, although I like all the entrants in the space. I like LODE and Aris and the other ones. Kinesis is kind of fully integrated across the metals. It's done a great job integrating Stellar blockchain. It's got its audits 1-for-1. I've used it to facilitate trade, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. I recorded a video using Kinesis, using my KEGs and silver to pay for something I needed at Home Depot, which is easy, and I did at my desk at home. I want to show you how easy that is. Let's go ahead and play that video. I wanted to do a segment on how easy it is to use the Kinesis virtual card to make a purchase, especially if you're doing it online. Now, there are a lot of retailers in which you can use your KEG and KEU through this method to purchase online, which is what I'm going to show you today. And then we're going to venture out eventually as we do more of these. And I'm going to go around town spending my money in support of the business and show you how easy it is. It's really not difficult at all. So we're just going to jump right into it. This won't take long, guys. We're just going to go over to our Kinesis account. So I'm sitting on Kinesis.money right now, and I pre-filled out the amount that I'm going to need to spend at the Home Depot. And how I did that was I just went through to their cart. And basically what I'm ordering is a little bit of plexiglass that I need for the business. It's just a 2 by 3 foot piece of plexiglass that we're going to use for a viewing window. And so I got it all priced out. And of course, Home Depot gives me that total there on the cart. So I simply go over here, Kinesis, and I plug that amount in. And to do that, all you do is you go up here to your menu, or you click down here under cashback, and you get this screen where you can pick, the vendor that you want to do this with, that they have an agreement with. Of course, I've just picked the Home Depot. So I've got the 4076 lined up here. I'm doing it in KAGs. So it's going to be 1.76221 KAGs to get to that $40.76. Out of available balance of $8,235.68. So I certainly have the money to do it. So we're going to click on that little buy now button. And what it's going to do is go through and create that voucher number. And they're going to create that number, which you'll pretty much almost instantaneously be able to use this online and get your payment through the online thing. So it takes just a moment. We'll sit here for a minute or two while this is being created. We will come right back and show you how to enter that. All right, guys, so we are back. And as you can see on the screen, we've got the gift card that we purchased at the Home Depot ready to go and enter on the order screen at Home Depot. I'm going to show you exactly how we do that. You'll see down here that it gives you a voucher number. This is the voucher number. We're going to click copy. I'm going to roll right over here. And if you want to apply a gift card, when you go to Home Depot, you just click on the credit card link, apply a gift card, put in the gift card number. And we'll go back here as well and copy the PIN. So we're going to go down here and pop in the PIN. Of course, we want to tell it we are not a robot. This is the basic validation. And it says we're good to go. So I had that gift card for the exact amount, $40.76, $40.76 exactly. And now you can put more in the gift card if you want. You could buy a gift card for $300 and just continue to use it and use that number if you wanted to. So that's certainly possible. In this particular case, I just want to make an online payment with my KAG using the gift card to Home Depot to get this piece of plexiglass that I need to do the project that I want to build. And it's simply that easy. We click place order. And bada boom, bada bing, we've got our acrylic. You can see the order confirmation on the screen, the amount that we're going to get, what it's sending, 24 by 36 acrylic, and where it's going to, and our address. And that is going to be it for our project. Now we're going to go out in a week or two and start this project. It's going to be a lot of fun. And now I've got what I need. And I didn't have to leave the comfort of my home. You can see I've been sitting in the studio this whole time. I did not have to drive out to Home Depot. I did not have to scan a credit card. I simply did it online and use the gift card payable through my KAGs. So use the money that I have invested to spend on the product that I need. And this works with any of the retailers that Kinesis has an agreement with. And if you want to know who those are, we will share the screen again and walk through some of those for you. There are quite a bit in this network, and I think Kinesis has done, just a really good job with this. The Home Depot is one that we like to use simply because we've used the Home Depot before. But if you go over here at Cashback, you've got tons of members, and you can sort by like dry cleaners and movies and entertainment and things. You can order flowers and clothes and electronics. So most of the things that you're going to order on an everyday basis, it's really easy to get these gift cards. It's also really easy to use these gift cards as gifts if you are going to birthday parties or things like that. So it certainly was a very easy process to start to finish. Total took me about 10 minutes. It was not difficult at all. I just thought I'd share that with you guys. If you're interested and you have those Kinesis accounts and you're wondering how to spend your money, this is a good way to do it right here in the US at the major retailers that you're going to use every day. All right, until next time, this has been Rob. All right, there we go. Very easy to use. I just simply used some money, bought something I needed at Home Depot, took just a few minutes. And so what I can do is I can store my currency units, my fiat dollars, in Kinesis as gold and silver, which are true money. And then I can use that system to facilitate commerce instead of leaving it as fiat in my bank and using my credit card. This is such a better way, I believe, to store my money as real value and to buy the things that I need. And Kinesis allows that. That's the power of an asset-backed digital currency is you have real money. You don't have to have it on you at every time, but you can spend it. And that allows you to do that. And so I'm not saving in depreciating currency units in currencies that we know are going to fail over time. So that's the difference between currency and money. Hopefully this has been helpful to you guys. I think it's been pretty clear as to why I support gold and silver. I do want systems to help us facilitate gold and silver. So I like the asset-backed digital currency model. I have participated in some private cryptos. I think that they could be viable secondary currencies, not as the money of the land, but viable secondary currencies when some of the problems that they're challenging and that they're faced with are rectified and society picks a winner or a couple of clear winners, and there are enough people adopting them and actually using them. One of the other problems with the private cryptos is most people aren't adopting and using them because people are used to the traditional on and off ramps in the financial system and the traditional financial tools. So converting over to a crypto system is going to take a bit of time. It'll take about a generation to learn. And in and of itself, the cryptos aren't stable as money. So I prefer using gold and silver and asset-backed digital crypto to be the monetary system of the land, because you get the best of both. You get the natural limitation on the growth of government and corruption and the destruction of currencies and the economy with the gold and the silver. But with the digital currency ledger system, you get the ability to trade in current time in the real world the way that we live now, because obviously we want to carry around our gold and silver coins. The problem with the private cryptos, though, is the high beta. They're not truly decentralized. Nobody's agreeing on which is which. They've got other issues that need to be rectified before they'd be considered strong currencies. But I'd like to see them introduced as currency alternatives so that the government can't just shove us, into whatever they want. I think it's been a really good video on money and what is money over time. I felt like, given all the alternatives out there, that we need to do a presentation on that and kind of explain where our view is on that. I think we've recently been talking more about technology and crypto and digital ledgers and things because the technology's here. For example, I recently had Steffi on my channel. I've had Kurt and other people from that space, Dezo, talking about it, because it's something we need to know. Even if you're a gold and silver bug and you belong to, if you don't hold it, we don't own it, and everything else is a scam or a conspiracy, or even you just don't trust it because of what's happened over time. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but we're here in the technology age, and you're not going to be able to live with gold and silver at home as money hidden under your mattress. It just doesn't work in today's world. You can't function in today's world unless you never go anywhere and do anything. Paying bills, facilitating trades, very difficult. And certainly on a commercial level across nation states, it's not viable. So we need to come up with something better than just gold and silver in its raw form, and to help facilitate trade. Not that gold and silver can't serve as money, not that we couldn't use them on an everyday basis physically, but if we had something on top which met the modern age, it's sort of the best of both worlds. You have the natural limiter of economic law and natural money, but you have this technology that man's built to facilitate it, as long as man doesn't corrupt that technology. But whenever man gets involved, you have to worry about corruption. So the deviation away from gold and silver as money has to be very carefully done. The agreements have to be put in place. It has to be something we all agree on. Hence why I did the show, to have this conversation, this explanation, why we're talking more about digital and why we will continue, because I have 25 years in tech and I'm going to talk about it because it's here to stay. But I want you guys to have my definition for money, what I consider money, and how I see those digital technologies integrating with the concept of money and doing it in a way that allows us to save our labor over time and not have it stolen through the tax of inflation, and to keep our governments honest. I do think we can get there. I think asset-backed digital currencies are a type of solution. We can certainly talk about others, but I certainly do not want to remove gold and silver from the equation. And I think that's key to the whole thing, keeping gold and silver at the center of money in society as a medium of exchange, as a unit of account and store of value, as well as all those other features I talked about, is vitally important. All right, that's going to do it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much. This is Rob Kientz with GoldSilverPros.com.
Hey, thanks for watching. We selected these videos just for you. Check them out. And remember, $4.99 a month keeps the lights on and the channel going. So join our Gold Silver Pro supporter membership. We appreciate your support. Keep stacking.